Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you might be located and whenever you are watching this. Thank you so much for joining us today for Amtrak Vacations presentation on our American Rail Series Part 2 featuring the Coast Starlight train. My name is Colleen and I'll be your host for the next 30-ish minutes as we take a fascinating look at one of the most beautiful train rides here in North America on Amtrak's Coast Starlight. So, of course, today we're going to talk about the Coast Starlight. We're going to look at a variety of different trips that you can do which incorporate the Coast Starlight. We'll talk about why traveling cross country by rail is one of the most scenic ways to travel. We'll look at some recommendations on the top rail routes in addition to the Coast Starlight, how you can combine the Coast Starlight with other rail routes to make a complete vacation. Of course, we will look at the accommodations on board Amtrak. I've got lots of great pictures for you, looking at the roomettes and the bedrooms so you can see the difference between the two room types. We'll talk about how you can customize any or all of these cross-country rail journeys to fit your travel style. And we'll talk about some of our experts' recommendations on the best destinations to visit while traveling cross-country by train. A little bit about us to start out. We are Amtrak Vacations. We do sightseeing rail vacations all across North America, the USA, and up into Canada, including the train, the hotels, your sightseeing, oftentimes meals, transfers, that sort of thing, whatever you like, we can do for you. And we have a sister company called Rail Bookers, which takes that same rail vacations and takes it worldwide. Now, with us here at Amtrak Vacations, you can book from today up to 2 years in advance. So you can book right now all the way through June of 2024. So if you are planning a last minute getaway for this summer or you're planning a trip, in a couple of years, doesn't matter. We can book all the way out to 2024 for you. And just a couple of reasons that travelers like yourselves love Amtrak and Amtrak Vacations. We have that expert rail knowledge. No rail trip is too complicated for us. We have a huge selection of rail vacations, literally hundreds of different trips all across the USA and up into Canada. We can book from today up to 2024, like I mentioned. And we have maximum flexibility. So these are not group trips with set departure dates. You can pretty much depart any day of the year, go into any destination for any length of time. So one of our things we like to say around here quite a bit is that if the train goes there, so do we here at Amtrak Vacations. And all of these trips are customizable. So I really want to highlight that for you because I know a lot of the times you'll see one of the trips that we're going to talk about today, maybe the Coast Starlight Rail experience, and say, oh, that looks great, but I'd really like to stop, in San Francisco along the way on that trip. No problem, because you can add destinations to any of these trips. You can add extra nights. Maybe you think you want to spend more time at the Grand Canyon or in Seattle. You can make any of these trips round trip from your hometown. You can, of course, upgrade to the roomettes and bedrooms on board Amtrak. And you can customize that sightseeing. Maybe one of the trips here, the Northern Rail experience, includes admission to the Space Needle, but you are afraid of heights. No worries, we can customize that. Maybe get you a food tour of Pike's Place Market instead. Or you can upgrade any of them to private tours as well. One of the most frequently asked questions that I get here with Amtrak Vacations is about packing for the train. So folks always want to know what they can bring and what they should bring on board when they travel by Amtrak. And I have to say, it is a very generous luggage allowance. Every person is guaranteed 2 free carry-on bags, plus a personal item like a backpack, a purse, a laptop bag. So really 3 items that you can carry on board, and 2 checked bags for any stations which include checked baggage service, which is the majority of stations. Now, if you are checking bags, you can do that up until 45 minutes prior to your train's departure. So if you are checking bags, I do recommend you get to the station a little bit early so that you can find the luggage desk and get those bags checked in before 45 minutes prior to your train's departure. Now, when you travel on board, I do recommend pack light for the bags that you're going to carry on, especially if you're traveling in a roomette or a bedroom. Bring a smaller overnight bag up to your room with the essentials, your toiletries, your toothbrush, your chargers for your phone or your laptop, your pajamas and clothes for the next day. But just pack a little overnight bag, and then you can pack the larger items in your larger checked bag. Now, before we get into the fantastic trips that you can take on the Coast Starlight train, I always like to show this map just to give you a little bit of a lay of the land here with Amtrak Network. So if you look on the left-hand side of your screen, you can see Los Angeles up to Seattle. That is the famous Coast Starlight train that we're going to look at today. But I just want to highlight how easy it is to connect up to all of the other trains in Amtrak's network. So Amtrak has over 500 stations across the U.S. They visit 46 out of the 48 contiguous United States, and it's very easy for us to make any of these trips that you're going to see today round trip from your hometown station. Now, without any further ado, let's go ahead and look at some of the amazing vacations that you can take featuring the Coast Starlight train. So the first one we're going to look at here is a really great combination of two iconic national parks. We have Grand Canyon to Yellowstone. Now this trip here starts out in Williams, Arizona, but as I said, you can easily catch the train from your hometown out to Williams to begin this vacation. Williams itself is a really neat little town located right on historic Route 66. So you've got lots of fun diners and souvenir shops and things like that, all featuring Route 66. And then you actually take a sightseeing train, a steam engine train, pictured here, from Williams, about 2.5 hours north into the Grand Canyon. And we actually have you stay overnight in the Grand Canyon itself. So you're going to stay in one of the historic lodges right at the south rim of the Grand Canyon, which of course is known world over for its breathtaking, spectacular scenery and views. You have a full day there to do some exploring. You can take advantage of their shuttle system to go, the different lookout points. You can go hiking. You can stop at the gift shop. You can have dinner overlooking the canyon, maybe at sunset. Lots of opportunities for you to do some sightseeing up at the Grand Canyon before you hop on the Southwest Chief train, which connects Williams to Los Angeles. And from there, you transfer onto the famous Coast Starlight train. So leaving Los Angeles, heading north, the Coast Starlight train hugs the California coastline for hours. And you get spectacular scenery like this. You can see surfers, you can see people laying on the beach. There are spots where the train is hugging the coastline and there are no roads anywhere nearby. And the train is the only way that you can see some of these vistas. So absolutely spectacular, stunning rides. And then later in the afternoon, the train is going to go inland a little bit, and it's going to actually go through some California wine country, which is really pretty as well. You've got the rolling hills with all the grapevines on your way into San Francisco. Now, we have you spend a couple nights in San Francisco, and the highlight of your stay there, for sure, is your full day trip out to Yosemite National Park. So this is really fantastic because it's transportation round trip from San Francisco. It includes a guided tour of Yosemite, so the tour guide will take you to some of the biggest highlights of the park, and then you have free time to explore on your own as well. So you can check off any of the items on your bucket list that are a must-see at Yosemite National Park before coming on back to San Francisco later that night. So this is a pretty short trip, actually. It's only 6 days. It's 2 nights in Arizona, 1 in Williams and 1 at the Grand Canyon. You do get 1 overnight on board the train, so we'll look at the different accommodations on board the train coming up in just a little bit here. And then 2 overnights in San Francisco. And again, this is all customizable, so you can add nights, you can add train routes, you can make it round trip from your hometown. You can continue on the Coast Starlight after this up to Seattle, whatever you might like to do there. Now, if you were looking for a longer trip, and really you are a rail buff and you want to ride as many of the rail lines as possible, this next one here is the trip for you. This is the Grand Rail Experience. It is a massive round trip all the way across the country, starting in Chicago, heading out to Seattle on the famous Empire Builder, down to LA on the Coast Starlight, across to New Orleans, Washington, D.C., and then all the way back around up to Chicago. So you do start and end the trip in Chicago, the Windy City. Loads to see and do there. You can easily add a couple nights in Chicago, uh, take in a baseball game, visit the fantastic museums, head out to Navy Pier. You can do a great architecture cruise from Chicago as well. There's loads of different activities that we can arrange for you there in Chicago before you head across on the famous Empire Builder train to Seattle. The Empire Builder is the northernmost train route in the United States. Goes through North Dakota, goes through Montana. You get to see Glacier National Park along the way, and then on into Seattle, where you spend a couple nights. Get out and stretch your legs a little bit before getting on board the Coast Starlight train headed down to Los Angeles. So on this particular itinerary, you get to do the full route of the Coast Starlight. So the last one we saw, you did half. You did the LA to San Francisco part. From here, you go Seattle all the way to Los Angeles. So it is about a day and a half ride. You leave Seattle about 9:30, 9:45-ish in the morning and get to LA around 9 o'clock the following evening. So you do get the overnight and the bulk of the following day on board the train. So you get to take in the entire route and all of that spectacular scenery before heading on Amtrak's southernmost route. So you had the northernmost route on the Empire Builder, one of the most scenic rides on the Coast Starlight, and now the southernmost route, the Sunset Limited train from LA to New Orleans. Again, we'll have you get off for a couple nights in New Orleans and stretch your legs, take in some of the incredible culture, music, and food of New Orleans. I cannot recommend the jambalaya highly enough if you like a little bit of spice. And then we'll have you take the Crescent train up to Washington, D.C. And finally, connect back to Chicago to finish your trip. So this is a 14-day itinerary, a 2-week trip, all across the United States on some of the most famous train routes that Amtrak has to offer. If you love that idea, but you don't quite have 2 weeks, we've got a little shorter version of it called the Northern Rail Experience. So this one starts out the same way, Chicago on the Empire Builder across to Seattle. You hop on the Coast Starlight train down as far as San Francisco, and then you connect on the California Zephyr back to Chicago. So this one has 3 iconic Amtrak trains and 3 pretty great cities to visit. So starting out here in Chicago, one of the things I do want to mention is that we have a wide variety of hotels for you to choose from as well. You get 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star options in each city. And one of the fantastic hotels that we do feature is the Drake Hotel here in Chicago. Absolutely stunning historic hotel. Beautiful, beautiful, fantastic location as well. Before you hop on the Empire Builder and travel those 2 nights out to Seattle. We include in Seattle admission to the Space Needle, but like I said, if you're afraid of heights, no worries. We can substitute that with trips to Pike's Place Market, or we have some great day trips out from Seattle as well. You'll then board the Coast Starlight train and head down to San Francisco, where you do a couple nights before hopping. Oh, and while you're in San Francisco, I do apologize. Highlight of your stay there is a visit to the Muir Woods. The Muir Woods is a towering grove of redwood trees. You can see it in the photo here. Absolutely just spectacular. When you look up, you can't believe how tall these trees are. It's really amazing to see and view. So you stop in Muir Woods for the afternoon out from San Francisco. That's round trip transportation included for you from the city out to the woods and back. And then you board Amtrak's famous California Zephyr for an incredible ride through the Rockies on your way back to Chicago. So this is a little shorter. This is maybe a little more doable for some folks. It's a 9-day trip altogether. 2 nights in Chicago, 2 nights on the Empire Builder, 1 in Seattle, 1 on the Coast Starlight, 2 in San Fran, and 2 on the Zephyr on your way back to Chicago. So again, really the highlight here is the rail routes, the Empire Builder, that famous Coast Starlight train, and the California Zephyr, as well as some pretty fantastic cities to visit. Now, I know today's presentation is highlighting the Coast Starlight, so I do have a trip here which features the Coast Starlight and just the Coast Starlight. So this one here is our Pacific Northwest trip. It's San Francisco to Portland to Seattle, all on board the beautiful Coast Starlight train. You start off in San Francisco, where we do have some great sightseeing available to you, including a hop on, hop off tour, which will take you all over the city, and the day trip out to the Muir Woods like you had in the previous trip. Now you board the Coast Starlight in San Francisco to head up to Portland. And I want to take this opportunity to talk just a little bit about the northern part of the Coast Starlight route. I feel like we always focus on the California section where it hugs the coastline and you see the surfers and the seals and the guys on the beach, which absolutely is spectacular, don't get me wrong. But I think that the northern part of the trip doesn't get quite enough credit. You actually go through the Cascade mountain range on the northern part of the Coast Starlight journey. You're going to be going through some lush forests. You've got snow-capped peaks. You do still go by the coast, especially as you get up to Seattle. You go past Puget Sound and you're on the water again for that part of it. But I really think that Cascade mountain range section of the northern part of the trip is underrated. It's really absolutely beautiful ride on your second day on the train as well. And that's what's going to take you up to Portland here. We have you get off in Portland for a couple nights and do some great sightseeing. Portland, great destination, especially if you're a foodie, things like that. And then continue about 3.5 more hours up to Seattle. Seattle, again, lots of things to see and do. We do have some great day trips out of Seattle that we're going to talk about in just a minute, but including Olympic National Park, Mount St. Helens, different things like that that you can do there. So the Pacific Northwest is an 8-day trip, 2 nights San Fran, 1 night on the train, 2 in Portland, and 2 in Seattle. We do have some of that great sightseeing that we talked about, the Muir Woods and Sausalito trip from San Francisco, a dinner cruise out of Portland, a city tour of Seattle, as well as admission to the Space Needle and the Glass Garden there. And finally, of course, we can't talk about the Coast Starlight without talking about the Coast Starlight Rail Experience. So this one is your iconic rail ride on the Coast Starlight train. It starts out in Los Angeles, and we haven't talked too much about Los Angeles. It is, of course, the starting point for the Coast Starlight train, but there's lots to see and do in Los Angeles as well. Of course, you can visit the Hollywood Walk of Fame and see Grauman's Chinese Theater and the Hollywood sign. We do have a great tour if you're interested in seeing like the movie star homes where the stars live. We also have a tour out to the beach if you want to get your feet wet, dip your toes in the Pacific Ocean. You can head out to Santa Monica, see the pier, and visit the beach there. Lots of museums in Los Angeles as well. So just depending on your style of travel, what you like to do when you go on vacation, we have different options for you. Now, from Los Angeles, you board the Coast Starlight, and like we talked about, leaving LA, absolutely beautiful scenery all the way up the coast until you kind of cut inland into wine country on your way to San Francisco. The next day, you're going to get up in the morning and you're going to be heading up into the Cascade mountain ranges, and you'll see the sort of mountains, the lush forests, some rivers and waterfalls there on your way up to Seattle on your second day on board the train. And one of my favorite places to park on the train and watch the world go by is in the observation car, which is what you see pictured here in this photo. So there's 2 folks are hanging out in the observation car. It's got the huge windows that wrap around the top. It's got comfy chairs that face out to the windows. There's outlets to charge your phone, little tables, and it is above the cafe, so you can go downstairs to the cafe and grab yourself a snack, a drink, whatever you might like, and take it back up to your seat in the lounge car. Now, when you get to Seattle, we do have you spend a couple nights there, and we have some fantastic day trips out of Seattle that you can include. So we have a trip here out to Mount St. Helens. We also have trips to Olympic National Park and more from Seattle. So again, depending on what you like to do on your vacation, we have a wide variety of different options for you. So the Coast Starlight Rail Experience, really this one focuses on your train ride. It's 2 nights at the front in LA. You get the full train ride all the way up to Seattle, and then 2 nights there in Seattle. So now we have looked at some amazing vacations that you can do on the Coast Starlight train. But everyone wants to know, what is it actually like on board that train, right? So what is it like on board the Coast Starlight? What is it like on board any of Amtrak's um, overnight trains? So first of all, if you are traveling in one of the sleeper accommodations that we're going to look at in just a minute, your first perk is that you have priority boarding. So they will call for the sleeper car passengers to board the train before everybody else. So you get a nice leisurely stroll to the train and priority boarding if you do have one of the sleepers. But if you're going on a short trip, maybe just that Portland to Seattle leg, right? You don't always need a sleeper. The coach accommodations are very comfortable on board Amtrak. I actually don't love the word coach because I think it makes people think of crammed airlines. But that's not the case at all here with Amtrak. You get tons of legroom. I will admit I am a little bit on the shorter side, but I cannot kick the seat in front of me. So I can guarantee that you will not have any small children kicking the seat from behind you. You have outlets like you see there, great big picture windows to view the scenery as you go by. The seats do recline back about 45 degrees. So think of your armchair at home if you can kind of go like this. Right, this is right about the angle that you can get on board Amtrak. And you've got plenty of room for luggage overhead and underneath your seats. So the coach is very comfortable, very nice way to travel. But if you are traveling overnight, and most of these trips do include an overnight, even on the Coast Starlight, which is one of the shorter routes, I highly recommend looking into the roomettes or the bedrooms, one of those sleeping accommodations on board the train, because there's just a lot more space, you get a lot more comfort, and there's some great perks that go with them. First of all, you have a dedicated car attendant. So each sleeper car, there's one car attendant who's responsible for assisting all of the passengers in that car. So these folks are going to keep the cars nice and tidy. They're going to take care of all the bathrooms multiple times a day. They're going to be there available to answer your questions or, help. They're the folks that are going to put your seats into beds at night and back up into seats the next morning. So you don't have to do that part. They'll do it for you. They can help you make reservations in the dining car and give you some great information about the places that you're traveling past. You also have a door. You can shut and lock the door from the inside, and you've got a little curtain that goes across that window, so you've got loads of privacy there. And you can also choose to have your meals delivered to you in your room if you like. Now, with these sleeper cars, all of your meals on board the train at mealtime are included. So if you're on the train in the morning at breakfast time, your breakfast is included. Same thing with lunch and dinner. And if you like, you can eat down in the dining car, or you can have those meals delivered to you in your room. Now, there's two main types of rooms on board the train. The smaller of the two rooms is called the roomette. The roomette is designed for 2 passengers, so you have 2 chairs that face each other during the day. So just opposite her, there's another chair facing her. As you can see, there's a giant picture window, so you can really take in that stunning scenery that you go past. There's an outlet and climate controls. You can see right next to where she's got like her iced tea. There's that kind of funny looking thing. That's the tray that's going to fold out. So you get a fold out tray where you can set up your laptop to watch a movie, play a game of cards, or eat your dinner if you're having your meals delivered to your room. To my right, I guess her left, there is a tiny little closet area where you can hang your coats. And these seats will fold down into bunk beds at night. So the seats fold down into the bottom bed, and the top bed folds out from the wall. So very cozy. From the bottom bunk, you can actually sit up. Well, again, I'm a little short, but I can sit upright on the bottom bunk and not hit my head. So you do have a lot of space in the bottom bunk. There's a little less space in the top bunk, but it's still quite comfortable. Trust me, I've slept up there on many occasions. There are like 2 steps to help you get up to the top bunk in the roomette. If you do want a little more space, you may want to consider the bedroom, which we'll come to in just a minute. Just quickly though, here's a little diagram of the roomette, how it's set up for nighttime. Now, I should mention with the roomette, the restrooms and showers are just down the hall. So they are private just for the folks in your sleeping car. So the whole car doesn't share these, it's just for the folks in your sleeping car. And there are multiple restrooms and showers. And a sleeper car attendant will make sure to take care of them and keep everything nice and spick and span. The roumette's actually usually how I travel when I go on Amtrak. But if you do want a little bit more space or you want to look at having a private restroom, you want to look at the bedroom. So the bedroom accommodations are again designed for two people, but you could put two adults and one smaller child in there if you needed to. Um, as you can see during the day, it's a love seat. You can sit next to each other, so there's plenty of room. The photo fades out, but there's plenty of room next to the woman where they can sit next to each other. Or there's also the freestanding chair where they can sit across from each other. This one has a good view of that same tray table that's in the roomette folded out, so you can get a little bit of vision on that. You have the big, huge picture window. Above the gentleman there is a little bit of storage for your luggage. You can also store things to the side or under the bed. To the left-hand side of the picture to the front, you can just see that white bit that's curving around. That's where their sink is located. And then sort of just just behind the gentleman on the left will be where the little small toilet shower stall is. So it is a toilet and shower in one little stall. So you do have it private to you in your bedroom, which is fantastic. And then at night, these are going to fold down again into bunk beds. So where the woman is sitting is going to be the bottom bunk. You can actually just see over her head the top bunk there, which is going to fold out from the wall. So here's a view at night, looking in from the room across. But this is you can see the bottom bunk and the top bunk setup. Now with the bedrooms, there is a ladder. So it is a little easier to get up into that top bunk because there's a ladder that gets set up for you to get up and down. Now we do, just here's a quick diagram of the bedroom, and you can see kind of that little closed off space that is the shower toilet stall. Now we do have accessible rooms on board Amtrak as well. So if you do need an accessible sleeper, we do have them. It is got a accessible bathroom, and the shower is accessible. The shower is just outside the hall, so it is shared, but it is accessible. And you do have the accessible bathroom in your room here. And again, just to point out, it is bunk beds, so it is designed for someone traveling with a companion who can get up to that top bunk. And there is plenty of room for the wheelchair in the accessible room, of course, as well. Now, we do have some great discounts here with Amtrak Vacations. We have discounts for children, seniors, and military, both active duty and veterans. So if you fall into any of those categories, make sure to ask us when you give us a call or check it out on our website. So I know we're right about at time, and I have only shared with you a handful of trips which go on the amazing Coast Starlight train. We have literally dozens more trips that feature the Coast Starlight. We have hundreds of trips overall here at Amtrak Vacations, and if you have any questions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to give us a call. You can also visit us online at amtrakvacations.com or contact your local travel advisor. Those guys are fantastic, and we'd be more than happy to help you put together any of the trips that you saw today or any other trip that you can dream up on Amtrak Vacations. I just want to thank you once again for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your afternoon. Thank you so much.